there are two things you need when you want to automate an assembly. One, of course, is the motor. This motor gets connected by these points to whatever the energy source is, and in our case that's the computer. Then the output, the energy, will go to this shaft, and the shaft will spin. So the question is, how do I take the energy from that spinning shaft to my assembly? Well, you're going to need a gearbox, and we have two different types of gearboxes. This is the larger of the two, and if I slide this gearbox on the end, you'll see little ridges alongside the shaft of the motor. If I slide this down the gearbox and lock it in place, put it as far as it goes, you'll see that that shaft actually engages or connects to a little gear underneath, and that gear, here I can see the side of that gear is connected to another, and yet another that will cause this to spin. This is the bottom of that gear itself, to spin. So the purpose of this gearbox could be for linear motion. Now I just pulled the shaft of the motor away from the gear, because if it's connected to the gear, the only way I can get this to move is to actually have it connected to the power source. So it's not actually against that gear right now, because I want to show you that here, if I take this track system now, it slides right into this gearbox. Okay, so what I could do then is have something that goes back and forth on here. And again, I'm going to show you that if I actually engage the shaft onto that gear, now I can't make it go because it's locked in place. The only way I can actually make that shaft move now and the gear to go along the track is to have it connected to the computer, and you're going to learn how to program the computer to have it go back and forth or actually run a linear motion. Okay, that's one type of gearbox for linear motion. And now let me go ahead and take the motor off again and show you the other type of gearbox. Okay, this one is a little bit smaller. It's referred to in your directions as a mini gearbox. So let's just compare the two. Okay, larger, we just call this a gearbox. There's no other name for it. And then a mini gearbox, the smaller of the two. And now let's take a look at this one. Again, I see that the motor must connect right there. It has little ridges. Okay, so I put this on. Whoops, wrong way. Okay, like this, and now the shaft of the motor is going to hit the gear, much like the other one, a gear there, but let's see what that gear is connected to. Okay, it's locked in place, and I see that that gear, let's see, the side of it is this right here, and so that'll turn, and here's another gear next to it, so that one will turn. And what you can do then is take another piece that has a gear built in. This is just a shaft or a rod or axle, a lot of different names for it. And what I want is for this gear to fit on the gear on the mini gearbox that will be spinning, so that this then will be spinning. Okay, so let's see how I put this in here. There's a little ridge in the middle. I'm going to slide this in here, and now it kind of locks in place with that little ridge. So you want to make sure that you put it in that way. If you put it in this way, it will easily just jump away from that gear once the gear is moving. Okay, so we have now the last gearbox that I showed you would transfer energy in a linear motion, a track system. This one will transfer energy in a rotary motion because my axle will spin. So the question then is, how do I take that energy, the rotary motion, and connect it to my gear assembly, which will be the next thing for us to do. But first we're going to look at programming.